I think money and how we spend it can be a very touchy subject for a lot of us. Some people may think that you spend too much. There's a lot of judgment around what we buy and why. A lot of times we think that we could be more frugal, that we're not doing enough, and it can, quite frankly, get a little exhausting. It took me a long time and a lot of inner work when it came to my relationship with money and how I managed it to really learn and understand that money is essentially a tool. Of course, there is a minimum income that needs to be met in order to feel safe and take care of your needs. But if you are privileged enough to make that amount, anything that is left over can really be used to augment your life and live it in the way that you want. But for a long time, I was simply all over the place when it came to spending my money, and I didn't really know where I valued spending it versus where I didn't. And because I didn't know what I valued, I found I had to eliminate a lot of things from my budget in order to see what I did want to spend my money on. So in today's video, I wanted to share with you 10 things that I cut from my budget that I don't miss at all. These are things that I cut from my budget because I found I wasn't really seeing the value that I thought I wanted from it, or I simply just found it was a waste of money. I think in sharing some of these ways that I spent my money and where I stopped spending it, I'm hoping that it can help inspire you to look at your own budget and identify areas that you can cut from your budget and potentially allow yourself to spend more in a category that you do value. So let's get into it. The first thing I cut from my budget that I don't miss at all is buying different groceries every single week. And what I mean by this is that I used to look at food blogs and want to try all these different recipes. So I would end up buying a bunch of spices, different meats, sauces to use in a recipe once, and then I would never end up using it again. Over time, I found it created a lot of food waste, and I found for a lot of the time really complicated the simple question of what's for dinner. Throughout the week in general, I tend to stick to buying the same groceries every time, and alongside that, sticking to fairly similar meals. Things like meats and sides that we use may change, but in general, we're eating things like chicken, fish, beef, rice, and some kind of vegetable on the side every single week. It keeps it really simple, it still tastes good, and overall we find we're wasting a lot less food, and it makes for a fairly predictable grocery bill every single week and month. But if you're a big foodie and you like trying a bunch of different new things and recipes, this might be a category in your budget that you may want to increase. This to me is just an example of why personal finance is very personal, and a lot of where you spend your money really reflects your habits and your values. For me, when it comes to my meals, I want to keep it tasty, but keep it simple. So buying the same groceries every single week is a way that I can do that. Number 2 is alcohol. I have basically stopped drinking. I used to love to have a glass of wine on a Friday night to relax, or have a glass of something while going out for dinner, but I find over time, and I don't know if this is a product of getting older, every time I drink alcohol, it could be beer, it could be wine, it could be a cocktail, I feel like absolute shit. I find after I have even one drink, I tend to feel really anxious, I have trouble sleeping. But it's an area of my budget that I don't miss at all because alcohol is also very expensive. It's highly taxed here in Canada, and when you go out for dinner and have a drink, that's really the majority of your bill. So I found in general, I just don't miss it, and it really opens up a lot of room in my restaurant budget because I'm no longer ordering alcohol with my meal. Number 3 is viral makeup. So I came of age in the beauty guru era of YouTube, where the beauty hall reigned supreme. And how many of us just dreamed of having those IKEA shelves and drawers filled to the brim with makeup? How many of us still have that? But it's just makeup that would end up going bad. And flat out, makeup is expensive. So this is not to say that I don't like to try new makeup, but I will often reserve that for when I run out of a product and I need to replace it. To me, I see a lot more value in sticking to my tried and trues, and if I want to try something new, I'll either get a sample size or the mini size, or when I need to replace something, that's when I'll consider buying that thing that I want to try at that time. Number 4 are pre-made salad dressings. A bottle of salad dressing probably isn't going to make a significant dent in your budget, but they're just something that I don't really buy because I make my own at home. There's less sugar, there's less additives, and it just tastes better. Number 5 is weeknight takeout. So we do spend money on takeout on occasion, but I have limited any takeout to weekends only. There were months where we would easily spend $200–300 a month on takeout alone, and it just felt ridiculous. Because sure, it was convenient, but a lot of this food didn't make me feel good. I found myself often feeling very lethargic, really full and bloated, but then also continuously craving more junk food because I was eating a lot of takeout and junk food. I still like the occasional Chipotle bowl or piece of pizza, but cutting that from my budget has allowed me to reallocate those funds to experiences like going out for dinner, having a date night. So for me, I noticed it's not necessarily the food that I value, it's the experience of going out and socializing and being around your friends and family, which is often centered around places like coffee shops and restaurants. So that's where I find I'd rather spend my money. Number 6 is the latest iPhone. I've never really been an upgrade chaser, but I don't want to spend $1,500 on a phone with a slightly better camera than what I already have. Number 7 is Zara. I was shopping at places like Zara, H&M, and eventually Aritzia pretty much on a weekly basis in my early 20s. Nowadays, I still do buy clothes. I love clothes, but I'm really more focused on quality over quantity and shifting a lot of my habits to looking secondhand first. So either looking at resale websites like The RealReal or Vestiaire Collective, Poshmark, as well as vintage resellers. And I find the quality at a lot of my favorite stores that I used to shop at has really diminished significantly. A lot of brands are switching out fabrics from natural fibers to now synthetic and polyester. The quality of construction isn't there, probably because there's such high demand and high turnover of these clothes. So I find it really interesting that even nowadays buying new isn't necessarily buying better. So not only have I stopped shopping at places like Zara and H&M, but I've really learned to shift my shopping behaviors and what I look for in clothes and where I shop because of that too. Number 8 is wardrobe duplicates. If you've been following my channel for a while, then you know that I have a fairly classic version of a capsule wardrobe. My aesthetic in general is very classic and minimal, but for a long time, even up until a year or two ago, I found myself buying a slightly different version of the same piece over and over and over again. In one way, this means I definitely know what I like, and in another way, I think it's important to have a few backups, especially of your favorite clothes, things like white t-shirts, things that stain and wear out easily. I found it was creating a lot of repetition and more of the same in my wardrobe. Everything was starting to feel really basic and one note, and I just felt myself getting really bored and uninspired by that. So in creating a capsule wardrobe, I think once you have your foundation of your staples, the pieces in your wardrobe that are essential to you and your aesthetic, then I think you can give yourself some creative liberty to add pieces that are just going to build off of that foundation that you've made. So for me, it's been a lot of fun to play with a lot of color, texture, different silhouettes, and just stop spending money on more of the same. Number 9 is expensive skincare. Except for the SkinCeuticals vitamin C serum, which I have recently incorporated into my routine and have finally been loving, everything in my skincare routine is either from the drugstore or K-Beauty. When I had a really bad bout of hormonal acne, I got so caught up in buying all the potions and tinctures and serums, and then either being disappointed by the results or having my skin end up being worse. When it came to my acne and even my skin now, the less I do to it, the better. So instead of spending a ton of money on the latest $200 serum or potion, I really recommend simplifying your skincare and seeing a dermatologist. Because I did find out that my skin barrier, yes, was compromised and I needed to calm it down and simplify, but the root of my acne needed prescription medication. So if I was going to be making an investment in my skin, I'd rather do it in a dermatologist and on procedures, things like microneedling and lasers, as opposed to creams, serums, and potions that can really only go surface level. Number 10 is sale season hype. Things like the Sephora sale, Amazon Prime Day, the Aritzia clientele sale. I love taking advantage of a good sale just as much as the next person, but the one thing I had to learn and really accept was that if I wasn't planning on buying it in the first place, I wasn't saving any money. When it comes to sales season, this is where implementing things like your wish list can be really helpful because it can really help narrow down what it is you want to buy and actually take advantage of that discount. Now, of course, some things may sneak in during a sale, but I think it's just accepting the fact that we are spending when we're doing that. We're not actually saving anything. So those are some of the things that I cut from my budget that I no longer miss, simply because I no longer see value in them, or I just felt like I was wasting my money. Some of them are big budget items, while others might not really make a huge dent if you do decide to cut it. But I really think doing this exercise and seeing where you value spending your money versus where you don't can help you start to spend it in a way that's in alignment with your values and the life that you want to live. So let me know some things that you cut from your budget that you don't miss at all, and let me know where you're spending more money and why you love that. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I'll see you next Sunday. Bye.